Welcome to the Silver Mature WomanPreneur Podcast, a podcast for and by women over 50, providing faith-building strategies for female entrepreneurs looking to achieve higher levels of productivity, capacity, and growth, where we strive to focus on God's agenda while building our businesses to serve our community with excellence. Welcome to the podcast. Today I have the pleasure of having Shannon Spencer on the show. She is a coach, and she's a coach for high-achieving entrepreneurial Christian women. Now, Shannon and I met a few years ago at an entrepreneurial retreat, and I had to have her on the show because, for one, when we met, it was like we already knew one another, right? And so I knew that I was going to have Shannon on the show, but here's why I never asked her. I didn't know she was 50. And so when I found out she was 50, I was like, oh, yay. And it's a wonderful thing because she doesn't look it. She looks amazing. So anyway, what a wonderful way to introduce Shannon to the show. Welcome to the show, Shannon. I'm so glad to have you.
Thank you so much, Aldreama. And it's true. When you picked us up at the airport, I felt like you were a long-lost best friend that I just hadn't met yet. And that retreat was wonderful. It was definitely something that I needed. And the friendships that we created there were awesome. And, I love that you tell me that I don't look like I'm 53. So when you had messaged me back and said, well, I haven't asked you because I didn't think you were the right age, I was like, oh, I just love that. Maybe it is because I have this beautiful colored hair, right? Only my hairdresser knows.
There you go. I love it. I love it. Well, Shannon, what have you been up to lately? I mean, we're going to get into a few questions, but I want you to introduce yourself and just share a little bit about what you do for your clients, and then we'll get into a few other questions as we continue on in the interview. So share a little bit about what you do for your clients.
When I'm working with a high-achieving businesswoman who has basically given birth to her dream, right? She's created this amazing business, and when we, I think as women, we become kind of these mothers of our business as well, and we can get really tunnel focused on making sure that we are doing everything we can for our business, for the people that we bring on to work in our business. And unfortunately, that sometimes comes at the cost of our families, the cost of ourselves. We can sacrifice those we love on the altar of our business while we're just, really trying to make it successful. And then at some point, we realize that, the business isn't giving us everything that we need, and we have relationships that are stressed, and we're stressed, overwhelmed, on the way to burnout. And so when I work with my clients, what I help them to do is to really tap into their faith, tap into who they are, that the Lord has made them to be, and to also partner with Him in their business so that we can help them align that work that they love with the life that we love. I really hate that term work-life balance because it makes it seem like work is one thing and life is another, but work is just part of our life, right? So how do we blend those things into a way that works for us, for our families, for our teams, our clients? So that's what I really help my clients with.
Did you always know that this is what you were going to do?
Well, I have a really kind of my mom would tell you that she worried that I would ever grow up and I would ever figure out anything, because I am one of those people who just like to try a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
But when I finally finished college, I got a degree in therapeutic recreation, and I went to work in mental hospitals. And what that meant was that I was teaching people how to enjoy life despite whatever ability or disability or challenge that they had going on. I worked in behavioral health units, substance abuse units, with the elderly who had strokes or amputations or whatever, and just really looked at how can we cope with life, how can we cope with stress, and do it in a way that brings joy, meaning, and purpose. Mm-hmm. And I did that for, like 15 years, I think. And before that, though, what I really thought I was going to do is I really originally thought I was going to be a buyer for Nordstrom's, because I loved clothes. So I went from being a buyer at Nordstrom's to then at one point working at the VA with the most amazing people, but you wouldn't look at them as amazing because they were the homeless, schizophrenic veteran that you see panhandling on the street or, what have you. And those were the people that I served with. And, oh, my gosh, it was just such joy. But, like all things, seasons change. And we moved and for my husband's job. And I found myself working at a Jenny Craig Center, working in corporate America. After having worked for the government, corporate America was kind of similar in some ways, but they don't really care about you as a person. They just care about the numbers. And what I found was I was sacrificing my life on the altar of their success while my two little kids were being raised by my mom, and my husband was working crazy hours. And my mom wanted to be the grandma that said, go ahead and eat all the cookies you want and go ahead and jump on the bed. And she didn't, want to tell them to do their homework and those kinds of things. And so I walked away, and I just said, I can't do this anymore. And I asked, Lord, what's next? And he sent me a quiz on the internet that said, should you be a life coach? And I found out, wow, that is exactly how I show up in life already. Yeah. So 2006, I went and got my life coaching certification through a ICF accredited school and put out my shingle, and I've been evolving ever since. And it's kind of helped to be a Jill of all trades, because I can relate to a lot of different things in a lot of different situations. Yeah. And So
I think it's interesting you said that, because it may feel like you're being a jack of all trades, but it's God's way of I said this on another podcast. It's God's way of blending everything in His spiritual mixing bowl and making it all work together. For the scripture that says all things work together for those who love Him and are called according to His purpose. And I think that all the experiences, all of the what feels like being a jack of all trades, it's really how He puts things, mixes it all up, and He makes it work.
Very equipping.
Yeah,
it's very
exactly.
equipping.
Yeah. And so, I think, and especially for those of us, over 50, that's gone through, a lot of different types of, career moves and all that kind of stuff. I used to work at, I worked at so many different places, but at one time I thought I wanted to be a photographer. Then I thought I wanted to be a model. Then I thought I wanted to be a flight attendant. Then I thought I wanted to be a nurse. And then
Yep.
And so, but I tell you, nursing was not for me. It was not for me. And so
that's why I went into recreation therapy, because I don't do body fluids. I'm sorry.
That's it. That's it.
I'm not going down that other track.
Yeah. I'm just like, no. I never even, went to the, I would see something on TV and I'm like, oh, no, I'm not going. No, that's not going to be for me. You know, my mother was a nurse. My niece, I have two nieces that's nurses. I'm like, okay, we're covered. We're covered in the nursing area. So, but yeah, I've different assignments, just different things, that just kind of all come together in his, like I said, spiritual mixing bowl. So can you share a story of someone who's experienced extraordinary results in finding work-life balance?
One of my most favorite clients is named Julie. And she had been successful in corporate America and risen to be the primary assistant to this vice president in her company. She did computer IT kinds of things. And she also loved direct sales. And through that love of direct sales, she started her own business in doing marketing funnels. And this was a few years ago, so marketing funnels were kind of a new thing at that point in time. And she had created a phenomenal business in that, was able to leave corporate America, retire her husband. And when she hired me, they were just moving from Washington State, where I also live, although she lives over on the west side on an island. They moved to Hawaii. And she hired me because the transition was really hard for her. They were renting a house while they were remodeling a home they'd bought to be their dream house. She had a 17-year-old adopted daughter, so still at home. And she didn't have any friends there, she didn't have any life there. And so she hired me to help her with the transition. And just like so many high achievers, she was completely a workaholic. She loved her business. She loved the things that she was doing, serving women in the direct sales industry to create these funnels to help them grow their teams. And she really took a lot of it, to heart personally. Like if one of her clients didn't do well and they would call and have a problem, she would feel brokenhearted. And so having the opportunity to come alongside her and help her to really become more authentic to herself, being able to really step into who she was and her truth while allowing her clients to be able to live into their truth, being able to create time and space for her husband, for her child, she helped they rebuilt the church. I guess the church that they were going to had burned down, and she was feeling really greedy, I guess is the word, the mindset that she had, because her goals were very money oriented. And so she had these huge financial goals, and her family didn't understand them, and they'd be, oh, you're so greedy. Why do you have to have all this money? Why do you have to, do all these things instead of, enjoying yourself, or instead of, spending more time with us? And so it helped her to really see that it wasn't greed. It was she attached numbers to the amount of women that she was serving rather than numbers of women she was serving to the numbers, right? So when she could say, well, I want to help 5 more women each month than I did the month before, that felt way more affirming to her. And when she realized that through her own spiritual gifts, through the way that God wired her, through his purposing in her life at that time, that she was really bringing him glory by doing the work that she was doing, supporting the people that she was supporting, and she was able to just really feel confident in her own self and live into that, which helped her to be more generous. And one of the things that was interesting, though, is we would set up this schedule for her, her ideal schedule. And then, her ideal schedule was that she would work from 6 a.m. to noon, and then she would then go to some lava pool or go to this beach near their house, basically that huge dream life that she had. And she was never finding herself doing those things, even though that's why they moved there. And so, yeah, so really being able to help her to embrace the new season of life, that she could take time to do those things that filled her cup without depriving her business of the things that it needed was such a blessing to be able to help her with that. So yeah, she's one of my favorite stories. But one of the things that she says in her testimonial is that working together, she really found out that being a Christian and being a disciple didn't mean just praying on the street corners. That it meant that she could really embrace who she was in every aspect of her life and be able to honor God and be in relationship with Him that way. So. Yeah,
wow, that's awesome.
She inspires me for sure.
Yeah. So I know you specialize in working with high achieving business women. So what are some of the challenges that you see when they're trying to balance their lives and their business? I mean, you gave this great example with her, but what are some of the challenges that you see?
I think some of the challenges stem from how we define work-life balance. Like I said earlier, when we're talking about, we have work on one side and then we have life on the other, as opposed to looking at it, like you said, in God's mixing bowl, right? Mm-hmm. That we have all these aspects of our life, and we oftentimes are doing things that aren't in our strength, because we're trying to take care of the people on our team, we're trying to take care of our customers, we're trying to take care of our families. And so we're, especially high achievers, like put things in boxes and they're reaching their goals, but they can get really tunnel focused about what it is that they want and how to get it. Yeah. So we get in our own way, because we're kind of short-sighted, even though we might have a big vision. And another thing that I notice with these kind of women is that they aren't stepping into their role as leader. They're stepping into their role as doer, because oftentimes the people that they bring onto their team don't do things the way that they themselves would do it. And so then they aren't releasing those things, even though they feel like maybe they're the best at them, but they've adapted them their way. When there's somebody on their team who could do it better, faster, that they have to be able to trust them to be able to do that. So a lot of it is recognizing who are we hiring, how are we asking for help, how are we supporting those people so that they can actually help and in their way that they're meant to. And be able to delegate those things and not micromanage. And then the other thing is, another way leaders do it is then they might delegate that something, but then they end up doing all this other trivial, menial stuff while in order to empower that person to do the stuff. Well, they're busy doing that, so I'm going to go and take care of these little things over here. And it's like, no. That's not productive use of your time either. So really owning themselves as a leader and being able to recognize what kind of style they have as a leader and grow into that, so that they can then really focus on the things that they themselves are best at and equipped to do, so that the whole process is holistic rather than just kind of get stuck and stagnates.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm curious, what's your process? What's the process you use with your clients?
I have a process called the Savvy Woman process.
All right. I knew you had one.
Yep, in 2012. And he's added to it along the way. But he gave me this formula that has really rung true for both myself and my clients, in that a savvy woman knows whose she is, that we belong to him, and that he is, part of all of this. Our business is his business. We know who we are because we know who we are in him. We know who we serve. So who are those people that we're serving, whether they're our family members or whether they're our teammates. We know what they want and need. And then we know, most importantly, how we ourselves make the difference. What is our secret sauce? that we bring to the table. And so going through this process, and I have an acronym for WOMEN, stands for a variety of different things that I take my clients through so that they can achieve a blueprint of their most authentic self, meaning that self that they just feel their sense of their best in. And then we can go from there. We can say, okay, so you're here and you want to go there, and there's a gap. So let's look at how you can best create a bridge step by step to bridge that gap to get to where you want to be. And so that's the process. And then I also most recently created a tool. It's called the My Day, My Way Daily Focus Success Tool. And what I've helped my clients and myself do is to figure out, how is my day to be structured, which you would love, Aldreama, because that's what you do. What is the best way for me to show up, and what do I need to make sure that I get this activities done, but also do it in a way that I'm not captive to those things, but that, my priorities get met before I get trapped by other people's agendas. And I'll give you a link to that tool that you can put in the notes if you want, for anybody who wants to access this tool. It'll just be my gift to people.
So you got some tips you want to share with our listeners, like some business tips or anything that you feel like will help them in their entrepreneurial journey? Because this entrepreneurial journey is not for the lighthearted.
That's for sure. Oh, my gosh. You get into it and you think, woohoo, I'm doing what I'm designed to do and what I love. And then you realize, I'm a business owner, too.
Yes.
I don't get to just do the part that I love. I have all this other stuff going on, too, at least if we're successful at it, right? So one of my tips is, I have a business meeting with the Lord every day. And, just really sitting with him. God made work. In the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve had jobs. Work has always been a part of living life. And so being able to be really clear on how we're living that life and what we're made to do is part of the success, right? And feeling like we're in what we're supposed to be. So another tip, I think, is affirming that. So I'm sitting in the Word with the Lord, and then every day on my daily success tool, I write an affirmation based on my time with him. And that gives me that focus for the day, right? That I know he's with me and he's equipped me. And then the next tip I have, and this is for those of us who are big picture thinkers, we are, we can get lost in the weeds pretty easy. So we look at the big picture of things. But what happens is when we sit down to write our task list, we're usually writing big chunks of tasks at a time. And so our mind doesn't take into account all the things that need to happen in order to actually achieve that task. So I encourage people to break up those tasks into the steps that it's actually going to take to get there. And one of the reasons why is because I don't know about you, but I get interrupted sometimes. Even working from home, I get interrupted by all kinds of things, right? My husband might be my fun little dogs. It could be my husband, depending on what's going on with him and his work schedule.
Sure.
And so I get distracted, and then when I come back to my desk to continue working on a project, I forget where I left off. So if I have my steps all laid out for me, then I know where I could get back to.
Yes.
Okay, I did that, but I didn't do. But here's where I need to move on from. Plus, after 50, what is it about these little brain snaps? And you're just like, I walked into this room. Why was I here? So
yeah.
Having the steps written down so that you know what it is helps your brain to be able to make it more realistic, more achievable, but also so that when you forget what you're doing, you know right where it is.
Yes. And I so love that. Go ahead.
And then the third tip would be make sure you're filling your cup. We have a tendency to serve and serve and serve and pour out and pour out and pour out until we are just all dried up. And that is not how we were created to be.
Yeah.
So I encourage people to think of things, simple things. It doesn't have to be anything big. But what are simple things? Maybe it's listening to a song that you just really love. Maybe it's taking time to work on some fun little hobby project that you have. Maybe it's phoning a friend and giving yourself permission to just, I just really need to chat with, this person because they really uplift my spirits when I talk to them. I was laughing. My best friend just got an iPhone. She's had an Android, I guess, forever. And last night we were FaceTiming, and she'd never done that before. And she's like, oh, we need to FaceTime more often. This is really fun. So we were filling each other's cups just by FaceTiming instead of actually having to come from our separate communities to go find a restaurant to have a cup of coffee, right?
Yeah.
And so just, looking at those things that fill your cup. Maybe it's even literally a special cup that has an inspirational saying on it or something, and you have a special drink that you treat yourself to, tea or coffee or whatever it is. But it's so important for us to find ways to fill our cups so that then we can continue to pour out.
Yeah, and I think the older we get, the more sometimes it could go, both ways, but I think the more we realize that we need to fill our cups because we have been giving for so long, and, if some women, maybe they have been in corporate America, and I mean, I did spend, 20, 25 years in corporate America and, just giving and giving and giving. And, of course, as we know, little return. But I'm thankful for the experience in God's little mixing bowl. Right. And so, because it did contribute to, it does contribute to where you are. But I think we forget and we don't appreciate how much we have given. And now we can bring those experiences and value to the marketplace. And we give, but it's more fulfilling. I think that's what I'm trying to say. It comes out differently, and then as we continue to get older, we realize what, I'm going to cut this off right now because I'm going to fill my cup. Okay, is that okay with you? Well, even if it's not, I'm going to do it anyway.
Exactly. And when we do that, we are teaching the people around us that it's okay.
Yes.
We learned in our professions that it wasn't okay because we were constantly work, do. I mean, yes, you got your coffee break or you got whatever, but it's when you work for yourself, when you're an entrepreneur, you get to set your schedule.
Yeah.
You get to bring the best of the things that you enjoyed that worked for you, and you get to leave most of the other stuff behind because in business there's always stuff that we have to do that maybe we don't like, but there isn't anybody telling you that you only have 20 minutes for this break or that you only have an hour for this break, right? We get to build in the richness of life. And I used to tell my husband, I'm like, I could work harder and make more money. What does that mean? It means we'll drink a more expensive brand of coffee, we'll buy a more expensive brand of car, we'll go on a more exotic vacation. But how does that really help me in the daily,
Yeah.
right? And so as we matured and got older, and now, now we do get to enjoy the fruits of our labor with a little higher brand of coffee and a little higher brand of car. But, but I want a life I don't need a vacation from.
Oh, that is it right there. Because I don't know if we even talked about it as a retreat or anything like that, but anyway, retirement, the traditional, retirement, you go to, which is what we've been taught, you go to work, you get a degree, you retire after, 25, 30 years, what have you. Retirement is not in the Bible.
Nope.
And so, I get it when people want to change, and pivot and do something that's a little bit more rewarding, and things like that. But it's not so that you can just, stop working and just, have little, drinks with the umbrellas in it. That's not what retirement,
exactly.
And so that's not what God, has designed. And what I mean by that, that's what it used to look like. But now, we're living longer. We're wanting to do things that's more fulfilling. We want to make a bigger impact or a better impact, or however you want to word it. We want to do things that leave a legacy, And so those things, especially, I don't know about you, but like when I turned 50, everything looked different. I mean, I know you just approached your 50, like I've been here for like 12 years. Okay, I'm 62, so there. But it's like your perspective changes, and I don't even know how to explain that to anybody. I wished I had someone, when I was younger to say, Aldreama, when you turn 50, your perspective is going to change. Yes. I didn't know, but it is so different. It's like there's a sense of urgency to, to do things that matter. I think that's how I want to say it. Do more of what matters. So.
Well, and I think that when we turn 50, during our 40s, I think we really start to realize that we are independent, that we do have things, we're not just a mom, we're not just a wife, we're starting to be able to own our truth and maybe even go to the store without makeup on. I was like 45, I think, before I could do that. And then it's like 50 hits, and it's like even more so. It's like, wow, the things that I used to think were important really aren't what I thought they were.
Yeah.
And allowing myself to embrace more of the richness of life and slow down. And I'm a high capacity person. So I was the woman who had juggled all kinds of things, and I loved it. And I basically suffered from a lot of FOMO, fear of missing out, because I just wanted to do it all. And burnt myself out a little bit young. And so now in this space where I find myself now, it's so much more enjoyable and relaxing, and I can put things down and I can pick things up. And I think when I look at it maybe from your perspective, when I get to 60, maybe it is that time is shorter. You're getting to that realization that time is, it starts to flow a little bit differently.
Yeah, it really is. Now, I was excited, when I turned 50. I was excited, but then there were so many menopausal things was happening to me.
Right?
And so, and so it was, And now that, I'm past that, that phase, I'm really thankful. After, that 60 mark, you start to think, okay, you know what, that 10 years really went by pretty quick. And, and then you're looking at, you're looking from a different lens. Not that it's not exciting, but it's definitely a different lens, and things matter even more. The things that you want to do in terms of things that's more fulfilling and doing what matters. I mean, it's like it accelerates. What would you say? Let me ask it this way. What do you love about your business, and what do you dislike about your business? Or is there anything you dislike about your business?
Well, what I love is I'm a co-creative coach. I believe that everybody has inside them exactly what they need right now, today, to do what the Lord has for them to do and to be who they need to be. And it's really more about being than it is about doing.
Yes.
And so coming alongside my clients, typically when they come to me, they are kind of those dry bones that we talk about in the Bible. They're just dry bones. They're dried up. They're overwhelmed. And being able to come alongside and help them reconnect with themselves and refresh themselves. And as over time we're working together, getting to know them and helping them get to just really plug into the things that are most important, and just watching them flesh out and pink cheeks and excitement of life. And that is what I love. So if I could just do that all day long, that would be heavenly, right? So what don't I love about my business? I'm going to be honest with you. All this marketing stuff. I work with marketing coaches for years. I've worked with some really great ones, and they love what they do, and it's easy to tell that they love what they do. And I just get frustrated sometimes creating all this content, and honestly, I just haven't been as good about it as and before COVID, it wasn't that important. I mean, I still had to do it, but I wasn't an online coach living in a virtual world, and so I worked with clients online, but they came by referral. And now since COVID and the world's kind of changed and shifted, so this marketing aspect has become way more important. That's the part that I guess I just don't love. But at the same time, God's really using it because He's called me to write a book. And so I'm writing a book using the Savvy Women principles, and it's going to be sharing the blueprint and walking through that. And oh my gosh, God is so good. Not only did He attach me to a really great writers group that's helping me with this, but my pastor and our leader, our elder of discipleship, asked me to teach a class with them this fall. So I've been doing this apologetics class with them, teaching new believers who have gone through our Alpha class, just more about faith and more about things that God has for us. And now they've agreed to let me teach the portions of my book this winter, and they're going to help me by editing it and listening to the material and helping me work through it. And my pastor just finished his doctorate, and he is publishing his dissertation, so he's kind of working through some of these things as well. So God just really laid it out pretty clear. This book that's kind of been on the edges of my mind for a long time is actually going to get birthed in 2022. So, and part of that is writing it through blog posts, through posts that I've made over the years, through client notes, through all these things. And so I'm a little bit more excited about the marketing pieces as I share stories and share ahas that people in the class or people that I work with and myself as well, as we're kind of traversing the materials that God's given me to help people to go on this journey of purpose and impact. So
it's funny you said that, because that was going to be my next question. I was going to ask, well, what exciting things do you have coming up? And so that's my exciting thing coming up. And then 2022 will be
by the end of the year,
yeah,
well, hopefully even before then, I'll have a book published. And because my retirement dream is to speak at retreats and do retreats for entrepreneurial Christian women and connect them with the plans that God has for them and those kinds of things. So when I think of as my life progresses, that's really where I see myself coaching and then doing some of these retreats for churches or business people or wherever God sends me to be able to share this message. Yeah.
I love that. I love that because I can see you doing that. I can definitely see you doing that. And I think that is, you said it on this podcast, so if you ever forget, I'll just remind you and I'll say it.
That's right. I made a declaration.
That's right. Well, so when we first started, you said something about some type of assessment or something.
Oh, the My Day, My Way daily focus.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's set up so that if you have worked through my Savvy Women program, you already know how you're wired. But even if you haven't gone through my program, it's still a really great tool, and it can help you actually identify how you're wired just by how you spend your day, right? So it starts with an affirmation. One of the things that I had said was I meet with the Lord, and then I want to affirm the message that he has for me. So there's a space to write whatever affirmation you have for the day. And then the next thing it says is, at the end of today, I will celebrate my wins by. And what happens with my clients is high-achieving people don't acknowledge their wins throughout the day. They're just like, of course I did that.
True. Oh, my gosh,
what I didn't get done was, right? And so I really want people to celebrate the things that they've accomplished each day. And you could, like for me on this particular day that I have in front of me, it says, at the end of today, I will celebrate my wins by acknowledging them.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And how I acknowledge them is I use a highlighter rather than crossing out things on my task list. So I highlight that I got them done, and then I can do a little woohoo, yay me kind of thing, because it's
that.
And then I have the next section is Savvy Women projects. And so these are the big things I must do to move the project forward. And science shows us that we really can't do more than 3 things. That's the max that we can really be working on effectively during the day. And so I have project 1, project 2, project 3 with space for us to write the steps out, right? Identifying my project and then breaking down the steps like we talked about earlier. So these are the little bite-sized chunks that I need to do in order to move the project forward today, because we're not going to finish the project today necessarily, but we're still in process of working on whatever it is. And then the third section says people to connect with. And so I have an area for people I need to reach out to, and they're the people that I must absolutely reach out to today. So list of people that I'm following up with, list of people that I'm, want to reach out to and connect with for either how I can serve them or, something that maybe I need from them. And next to it is the section people I'm waiting on. And so this is the people that I need something from to move a project forward. And, it's like, I've passed this on to my VA, and I'm still waiting for her to get it done. And that can take on such a negative connotation. But when I think of them as a collaborator that I'm waiting to connect with, okay, well, I passed this on to Jade, and so now, I'm just waiting for her to get this piece back to me. That's kind of a more positive mindset, and realizing that she's a collaborator, not somebody who, I'm just waiting.
Right, right.
For me, I'm a big picture person, and I'm a fast mover. So I need that list, too, because sometimes I can forget and start moving ahead anyway, and it's like, oh, no, wait a second. I need to wait for this piece. So, maybe I need to follow up and just see where she's at in the timeline so that, I can know when she's going to have it for me. The bottom of the page is about our priorities. So list the priorities and to-dos that must be done before getting trapped in your inbox and other people's agendas.
Oh,
and
my
so
gosh.
This is the main things I must complete today no matter what. And so I have this for a task list of those, 3 to 5 or whatever tasks that actually have to get done no matter what. And then next to that is a box of things that would fill my cup.
Yeah.
So just a brainstorm of things so that, I make sure that when I have a minute because, sometimes I can forget. It's like, oh, yeah, I said I was going to do that. I was going to listen to this podcast, or I was going to run and, do this thing. And so if I just have a little running list of things that, I have time to do this right now, I can highlight that.
Exactly.
So, yeah, it's just like I manage my day like a project. So,
I love that you said that. And there's so many things. I know we're going to have to come back and you're going to have to come back to the show. So let me just say that right now, because there's so many things that you touched on that I was like, oh, man, that is such a great idea. That is so cool. And especially the part about highlighting, instead of putting a line through it or checking it off or whatever, you highlight it. Mm-hmm. That puts things in a whole new light. That's like, I never thought about doing it that way, because I like to-do lists and all that kind of stuff too, and of course, that's part of, what I teach my clients. And I was so excited when you said that. It was like, okay, Aldreama, don't interrupt her. Let her finish saying what she's...
Well, I'm glad that it highlighted that for you, because that's exactly how I felt whenever it was that I heard it years ago that somebody recommended it to me. And it just gives it such a different feel, right? Yeah.
So excited about it. And I'm so excited about your book. Like, that's going to be so amazing. So
I know. I'm looking forward to seeing what God's going to write in it.
I know. Oh my gosh, that is so cool. That is so cool. Hopefully, when people listen to this podcast, when they listen to this show, I want them to be so inspired, so ready to make a change in their current situation that it is like insane, and right. So I wish we could just spend the rest of we could spend the rest of the day talking, but people may not be listening to our podcast. God has so much in store. And I mean, I was thinking about, I'm sure you've heard this before, where they say the graveyard is full of intentions and dreams that never happened, and so that's what I want this podcast to do. I want it to inspire these women. I want it to, I want them to walk away with, not just motivation, but some things they can implement. Right away, that will give them some momentum, and
exactly.
And say, yeah, I can do this. I can do this. So were there any words of encouragement or inspiration or anything that you wanted to share with the listeners?
Honestly, when we tap into our authentic way of being, then all the doing flows out of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so when we're being who we're created to be and we're plugged into the source of that relationship that we have with the Lord and through the Holy Spirit, just, be able to be empowered and equipped to just continue the path that we're on, then we're always doing the next right thing. And as our seasons change and things ebb and flow, it's the way it's supposed to be. And when we catch ourselves not being who we want to be, then that's the time to stop, right?
Yeah.
And just really reflect on what's happening. Are we in alignment with our values? Are we in alignment with what we want to see happen? And that doesn't mean things are easy.
Right.
Because most of the time they're not, right?
Yeah, exactly.
but even when they're not easy, it's opportunities for us to be able to get in touch with those parts of ourselves that, that we can expand our capacity, we can persevere, we can build our character, and so that we're ready for the next thing that comes. Absolutely. And I think that's the important part of just living our life and being who we're being, and being able to be that, whatever it is, that piece that the Lord created us for through our work to contribute to the kingdom, because our work is part of what He has planned. That's why He gave it to us, and why He gave us our dreams and our hopes.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Shannon, thank you so much for that. Thank you for being on the show. Thank you so much for sharing, how you are impacting, making kingdom impact. And I so appreciate you, and I know we're going to have to come back and have you on the show again. And
I look forward to that.
Yeah, especially, once that book, starts, you start rolling out stuff, pages of that book, you're going to have some more stuff you want to share. And I'm going to be sitting right here waiting for you to share it.
Okay, are we really saying goodbye?
Mm-mm.
What was that for you recording?
Hi, this is Aldreama Harper, and thank you for listening to the podcast. I hope you got value for where you are in your entrepreneurial endeavor. And if you'd like to know more about how I can further serve you, simply go to CoachDreama.com. Again, that's CoachDreama.com. I look forward to hearing from you. Have an amazing day.